There it goes.
All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Compass Rose True North podcast. I'm your host, Scott, and I have a very special guest, Hobo. Everybody should know him. He's a great guy. He's like a mad scientist or just a funny kind of fun fact guy and a guy.
More of an acquired flavor.
Ta-ding, yeah. So if you could give us, again, a little bit of background on who you are and
Sure.
what you've been through.
So I'm here in Houston. Name's Hobo. It's not my real name. I'm not going to tell you my real name, although it's not hard to figure out or find. But down here in Houston, my trade or my background is science. Originally started off as a marine biologist, then moved into medical research due to the genetics components I worked on. Left that last July. Consider myself at the moment semi-retired. Hope to stay that way. And here we are.
Well, that was a quick background. No, I'm just kidding. So, what do you have? What are you smoking tonight?
So right now, got one of my favorites, Alma Forte by Placencia.
Placencia is a really good stick.
And
I like that one.
Solomon configuration.
Yeah, that's a beautiful cigar right there.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I'm smoking one from Sanj, Patel and all that. Very good. It's the blank one. It has no wrapper on it.
Oh, so is that the industry killer or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't got to have any of his stuff yet. So
it's a damn good cigar. Oh, excuse my language. It's a good cigar. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, it's gonna be real. This is one of those conversations. That's what I like about this is you just be real. Be who you are. Don't like it? I apologize. I'm just gonna say that up front. I apologize.
Yeah, I will definitely probably be cussing. So
I'm a sailor. He's a scientist. So you put two of those guys together, you get a lot of swearing going on here and there and all that. But again, yeah, cigar smoking, he takes the side of the alcohol part because I'm a recovering alcoholic. So I don't drink.
Mm-hmm.
But with all that being said, now Hobo, what was your turn on? What was your first, I should say, experiences with cigars?
So I originally started off as a pipe tobacco smoker, and then got into cigars. One night we had some friends over. The husband brought some cigars and some bourbon, and it was the Rocky Patel 15th, which again, a lot of people like it, don't like it. I enjoyed it. Still kind of am a Rocky Patel fan myself. I've since moved on from the 15th to more of the decade. I like the number 6 and some of the other stuff there. But, just like probably some of us, that's kind of how I got into it. Was just, friend came over, hey, you want to try some cigars? Sure. Show me how to cut it, light it, and then got into it from there. And then meeting a lot of you guys since then, I've expanded my palate a lot more and got to try a lot of really good stuff. So here we are.
That's fascinating. Do you have like a preference over cigars versus pipe smoking?
So to me, they're different. One is not better than the other to me, and they're just different. Pipe smoking is a little more involved because you got to clean it afterwards, right? Whereas with a cigar, you cut it, light it, smoke it, throw the nub away, and you go about your business. Then, with pipe smoking too, you got to pack the bowl right. If it's not packed just right, too tight of a draw, or if it's too loose, right? But like I said, to me, one is not better over the other. They're just different. There's aspects I like to both. But what I really like is they just kind of put me in this mind frame, kind of back to this older era. Um, you know, back of like our dads, granddads, great granddads, and stuff like that, when it was just thought of more of this like more elegant thing to do. The smoking jackets and getting dressed up when you go out and that kind of stuff. So I kind of like that. The other thing I like about just tobacco smoking in general is, given my genetics background, is the idea that maybe I might be smoking a leaf that over time has come from a plant or a leaf that maybe my grandfather or my great grandfather or my great great grandfather might have smoked as well. And that's kind of cool to me. So, especially because I didn't get to meet some of these people. So, at least maybe that kind of ties me back to my family history a little bit as well.
Hey, that's a cool way of looking at it because
Mm-hmm.
that went in depth on looking about people's heritage, where they came from, and you see some of the other families that have started out, like Arturo Fuente, Padron, and all that they've started out, and a legacy that they created through the tobacco and the struggles that they've gone through to get to where they are today. But again, just reiterate, they started out at the bottom as boutique cigars, just as where a lot of the other ones are starting out as. Now, for you, you've smoked cigars for how long
Mm-hmm.
versus tobacco or pipe tobacco?
Pipes. So, like I said, I started off as a pipe smoker. I would say I'm getting up near 10 years with the pipes. Cigars is a lot less, probably 3, 4, maybe 5 years tops. But either way, I found there's a lot to learn about tobacco itself in general.
Hmm.
Um, and then, with the cigars, I feel like I'm always learning something new. Um, in general. So even though I've been smoking a little bit, I still feel like I don't know what I'm talking about. So that's why I like talking to a lot of you guys, because you always give me a lot of new knowledge or new ways to think about stuff or new things to try, whatever the case may be. So that's why I like coming on here and talking to a lot of y'all, because it keeps me thinking.
Well, 100%. Because again, we're having a lot of boutiques come out there, and there are so many different brand new cigars that it's hard to pick which one, or
Yep.
if you even smoked it or anything like that. It's like, hey, someone comes on, I never freaking heard of that.
Yep.
I didn't know that even freaking exists. And you try it and you love it, or
Yep.
it's not for you. But I mean, all those types, it's one of those beautiful parts that, guess what? It's a never ending learning experience because there's always going to be new cigars. Something's new is going to be out there all the time.
Yep. Especially with so many boutique brands coming out. Um, what I It's not that I don't enjoy, the big name brands, like you said, like the Fuentes or the Patels. What I like about the boutiques, and this is my personal opinion, I feel like they get to play around a little more and experiment a little more, because these big name brands have established themselves. They know what you know people like. Doesn't mean they don't come out with new stuff, but some of these boutiques are trying some real wild stuff. Does it always work? No, but some of the stuff they do try, pretty phenomenal.
Absolutely. It's like reinventing the wheel, per
Yeah.
se. And you gotta, that's the part of, where you appreciate like science and stuff like that. Evolution. We got it. We're evolving.
Well, I think it helps keep the industry on its toes. It doesn't become stagnant.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it keeps everything fresh. It's just like fashion or electrical. It's like, because yeah, back in the day, electrical was boring as hell, but it was great at the time period. But as time goes on, now it gets more modernized. Just modernize. Get what I'm saying? In
Right.
vehicles, same thing. Just in every industry, you're always trying to strive for a better version of it.
Right.
And now, for yours, is there? Do you have like a preference versus boutique, or one of the founding, families out there, the bigger ones?
I think right now it's not really a preference. I've done a lot more boutiques specifically this year just because one, there's so many out there. Talking to you guys, right? Oh, you got to try this. Oh, you got to try this, right? And it's a lot of boutique brands. And again, with everything becoming so costly, sometimes these boutiques put out some phenomenal sticks at some really great prices. So again, it's not anything against the big manufacturers. It's just because I still pick those sticks up regularly, right? But like I said, because I feel they get to play around and try some things that are drastically different. I like that. So it kind of keeps me from getting bored. I'll come back to some of the big guys, what I call some of my go-tos, just as kind of a baseline to compare it to some of these other boutiques, to compare it against. But like I said, I like that because I think it keeps the industry on its toes.
It 100% is kind of like keeping it honest.
Mm-hmm.
Because, be honest, a lot of them, it tastes the same.
Mm-hmm.
I know the difference between Arturo Fuente and Padron. Because to me, Arturo Fuente has the creaminess and a little bit of the nutty, but at the same time, you go over to Padron, it's more of the nutty. You get that nutty flavor versus the nutty's not so strong and predominant over in Arturo. It's more of the creaminess.
Mm-hmm.
It stays the same. It's not that it stays the same. It's very consistent. The consistency is always there,
Right.
of the quality. So, like you said, with the boutiques coming out, it's kind of like being the underdog. Oh, you can't do it, blah, blah, blah. They get too big for the britches, but the other one, the smaller ones, they work a hell of a lot harder to make that cigar. And they put a lot of effort into creating a good cigar for everybody to enjoy. And it's not about money.
Right.
And me and you have shared, which I'm honored of that, to be able to share a cigar with you.
Right.
On offline.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't on live. That was an experience.
Yeah, that was fun because we got to sit there and talk. And, we were mainly focused on the cigar. And like I said, the only problem we had with that cigar was we didn't have more. We only had the one, and we were kicking ourselves for not having bought more of them, but we didn't know.
But it wasn't bad. I mean, yeah, it was upsetting that we only had one, but again,
but now we know.
It was kind of up there and all that in price. But
right.
With that being said, is who knew what it was going to be like for us?
Right. But again, it was just great to sit there and one, enjoy a really damn good cigar and just kind of, enjoy each other's company and stuff. And, we kind of delved through it, what do you get? What do you get? But then we talked about all kinds of stuff. It wasn't just the cigar because, it became about the cigar here and there when we just kind of kept going back like, God dang, this is a damn good cigar.
Right. Yes.
But other than that, we kept sitting there talking about life and other stuff. But, every couple of puffs, it was like, damn, this is a good cigar, so.
It brings you back to it. It's like that's the thing with cigars. I wanted to ask you this question. With that being said, what intrigues you the most, or what are you looking for most in a cigar?
Oh. One, definitely not flavor profile, but just is there flavor there? Because again, especially if I'm trying something new, I'm not looking to expect anything other than hopefully there's flavor and I can taste something, whether I like it or not. Whether it's got a lot of pepper per se or whatever. I just want to be able to taste it. Now, I'm also kind of a time of day smoker as well. So, if I'm going to smoke in the morning with coffee or something, then I'll go with a lighter stick if I got other stuff to do. If it's after a big heavy meal, then I want that big, beefy, robust, full bodied stick, right?
Mm-hmm. I agree. With that being said, okay, so what part of the cigar do you most favor? What do you look for in it? Like me, mine's the
So, you're
final
talking
third.
about the thirds.
Yep.
Me, I tend to really enjoy that second third because that's where it seems to really kind of, at least for me, where I notice now, again, each cigar line, I guess, I mean, again, cigar to cigar kind of depends, right? But each kind of line tends to be a little different.
Mm-hmm.
But what I tend to notice for me mostly is, you know, that first third, it's kind of really starting to get into the cigar. Um, and then that last third, sometimes some of them, yeah, you've collected all of it. And then sometimes that can be good, but sometimes that can be really bad from my experience. But I really enjoy that second third because to me, that's where you're really getting into the body of the cigar. Now, I'm sure people on there will be like, he's full of shit. Like I told you, I've been doing this a little bit. I have no clue what I'm talking about.
You know more than you think. Like for me, the last part, yeah, the first part, that's a given. The reason why is because if I don't like it in the first one, if it gives up, I'll put it down. But majority of the time, I'll hold off. I'll smoke it, get past it, and see if it changes.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got to give it a chance. But for like new people and all that, that first one is very, very important of the cigar. If it doesn't hold their interest or it don't taste right, being their first time cigar, that's a huge turnoff. So you have to make the first part really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for the final third, for me, is I always like, when we're having a conversation, you're not giving that cigar the attention that it deserves.
Right.
Okay, because you're conversating, you're moving around, whatever. You're just not smoking it. Now, when it starts coming down to that last part, now you're starting to focus on it now because now you're inching down. It's like, oh, you're paying attention.
Don't burn your fingers. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, and you start paying attention to it, and that's where your mind starts clicking. It's like, oh, is this good? Is it bad? What's it holding? Does it end with a good flavor profile? Because that's important too, because some of them to me don't have a good end profile to
Right.
it.
Right. And that's what I'm talking about. I've had some where, you know, like the one we shared that day. I mean, we were trying to eat that thing if we could. We were trying to smoke it down to the last bit. But then I've had others where I may not even be really that far into the last third, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm done with this. This is getting way too hot, and maybe that's because I'm hot boxing it. But starting to get heat, not just temperature wise, but sometimes it's just really starting to get real acidic and whatever. But I agree with you. I've had some where it's like, okay, I want to enjoy the whole thing, but then I've had some where I'm like, I'm done, I'm good.
Yes.
But now I've had very few where I might get into half of it and be like, you know what, this just ain't doing it. I've had okay cigars, but I think I've maybe really only had one, two cigars where I'm just like, I'm not enjoying this.
That's understandable. Again, everybody's palate is different, and it's important to know that, and it's important. So, what do you think about like if you have a new person and they're trying to figure it out, and you're the only one they're going to talk to? So, how would you portray that to the up and coming generation that's smoking cigars, or the older ones that are for the first time they just want to learn how to smoke cigar? What would you tell them?
So we're talking about how to like figure out what to pick for themselves.
Just in general, if they ask you questions, like if they popped on here on one of the Instagram lives or any part of social media, and they happen to come across you, and it was their very first time, and you were the only one, like how you said you and MJ.
Right.
I got ahead of myself.
Yeah. Um,
And they ask you questions. How do you respond?
I mean, I would try to answer the questions, and usually this comes from science, but it's like, hey, this is kind of what I've heard. It's kind of one of these general consensus kind of things. But then, they're going to have to go somewhere to buy these things typically. I mean, unless they're ordering offline. But if they're real new, be like, here's what I think. But, if you got a shop nearby, go talk to the tobacconist, right? Because they're going to know way better than me. And, than talking to a bunch of chuckleheads on Instagram, right? Because a tobacconist gets paid to answer these questions and know about it. But I think one of my favorite experiences here on IG was when Miller finally got some cigars, right? And we kind of walked him through, like you said, he had a bunch of questions. We kind of answered him about how to pick what he might like. And again, it's like, just because we may or may not like it doesn't matter. It's kind of what you think you might like. And I think one of them was like a Rocky Patel Java, right? Because again, a lot of us start off with like flavored cigars and stuff. But what I really enjoyed about that experience is I was in the comments, but it was, I believe, Rican and Ramon. And they had to walk him through how to cut it, light it. But I told him, I said, don't just tell him how to do it, tell him why we do it, right? So back again, the why. Why do we cut it this way? Why do you want to light it this way? Because again, you can tell somebody how to do stuff, but it's better, in my experience, at least, especially in the lab, not just tell them what and how, but tell them why you're doing stuff. Because then it's like, oh yeah, this is why we're doing it. This is the reason. Why is it important to do any of this at all, right? Well, here's why we're doing it.
Well, that's the aspect of life right there, which I think in our younger generations are starting to lack. That is, everybody just wants to do it. You tell them something and they do it. Just like with social media, you hear it, and I'm going to be straight up. You hear a lot of negative publicity. You hear a lot of negative things in the news.
Yep.
I mean, it's all there, but everybody listens to it and jumps on like the A train. Hey, let's all jump aboard without knowing the why.
Or questioning anything.
Question. You got a question. You have to. You have your own mind. You have your own opinions. You have your own suggestions. But again, you know right from wrong. You know what you've been taught, but you have to learn to ask the questions. The ones that you don't ask are the bad ones.
Right.
And with that being said, it's like with anything you do, like being in a lab, I mean, that's got to be very demanding. Not, of course, not physically, but mentally. Because I know for me, being in the military and being an electrician,
it was
a
both.
lot of it is mental. Huh?
It was both for you, I'm sure.
Well, it was. It was a lot of it was physically draining, but more and less mentally draining.
Yeah.
And it's hard to be able to help teach the newer generations on how to prepare for that. In other words, with your expertise, with your background and all that, what is your opinion on that? How do you think that would be better to be able to help educate and bringing people and understanding what's going on?
I mean, even in science and stuff, it's tough for us sometimes too, right? Because you get all these new rules or laws slapped on you that you can't do it the way we used to do it. And so, what they're trying to do is make sure that all these, new people coming in are, included or treated fairly, which is fine. I'm all for that. But then sometimes what happens is you can't then do things to a level that it needs to be done that actually protects people. And then that's how people wind up getting hurt in a lab, because I've seen it. Guy dropped, I think it was like hexane. Well, when you drop that stuff, it pretty much just bursts into flames. And he comes out lab. Oh, it's like, well, why is he here? How's this guy got a PhD? Well, it's like, well, yeah, I do know. That's the problem. We've lowered standards.
And I think that's important that we have to bring back as those standards.
Life
We've
ain't
gotten away from that.
life ain't fair.
No, it's not. But again, if you want to stand up for what's right, it's not always easy. Sometimes it's going to be challenging. It's going to be hard because that's the whole point. It's supposed to challenge you to stand up for what's right and do the right things. And that goes on anything with your own mind on smoking a cigar, doing your thing, creating a business, having a family. You got to do the right things.
Mm-hmm.
Know right from wrong. And that was kind of like I was going back is like I have, my family and all that, grandkids, stuff. Already done raised our kids. So it's like, okay, now we can kick back, relax, and enjoy our grandkids. But for ones who have young kids that are in school now, it's kind of like, how do you prepare them? How do you prepare everybody that's to be something that is important, but safe at the same time?
It's I don't know. I don't have the answer to that because it's tough. We just had to pull our kids out of public school because that's what we felt was best for us because ours demonstrated several times they could not, one, educate our kids, but two, they couldn't keep them safe. So we made the decision. We yanked them. What, last week?
Mm.
And even not just these kind of scenarios, but sometimes doing the right thing is not the easy thing. And like I said, I've been busy as hell since we've done that, trying to figure out, what are the next steps. And now we're kind of having to untrain this traditional way of thinking for a new way of thinking, which is tough.
Well, I mean, as parents, and this is why I brought that up. It wasn't to put you on the
No.
side or put you up on blast, but it was important to me because I had a conversation. I walked into a VFW hall by me. Was having a good conversation with the lady and all that, and we were talking about
Mm-hmm.
suicide prevention, and all that against our with our military. But not only that, that they had an overabundance of young kids that were committing suicide. Like, what? Excuse me, 6 in the last couple months. Now, that's astronomically freaking stupid numbers right there. For one little district to have that many suicides, that's telling you something. That's telling the people something.
Mm-hmm.
Our kids out there need our guidance. They need our help. They need us to help educate them. And not only educate them, but to educate ourselves as well. And it was an emotional kind of conversation we had earlier because that is a very personable thing and all that with mental challenges and stuff like
Right.
that. But again, it comes down to where nobody wants to talk about it. They want you just here, take a pill, or we don't really acknowledge you and all that because they're not doing right by the mental health system.
Right. Because it's almost easier to sweep it under the rug, I feel. Um, and I think some of the stuff when it comes to these younger kids nowadays, compared to like when we grew up or when you raised your kids, even though the internet's a great thing and it's powerful and there's a lot of great information on there, like where I get all my fun facts, these kids have access to all this social media. And now you got all these outside influences, and you try to be an involved parent, and sometimes, as hard as you try, you're just not involved enough, you know. Um, and you got these people telling your kids all kinds of crazy stuff sometimes, you know. And I don't mean the schools and stuff. I mean just people, you don't know who your kids are talking to sometimes, even though you're trying to see who they're talking to. It was every other day there's some new app. Parents, you got to watch for this one. You got to watch for that one. It's like, good God.
It becomes very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
How does, in your opinion, like you said, you pulled your kids out of school and all that to help sway your decision. It's like, what would you suggest that what would be a good idea to like help other parents going through a situation with their kids, or how can we as a community come together and start addressing these? Because in my
Well,
opinion, it's like a band-aid. Everybody just wants to put a band-aid and nobody wants to have a solution for anything.
well, for me, I mean, a lot of people who probably see this have seen me how I get on lives, anyways. When it comes to stuff like this, again, don't let these people forget they work for you. I pay property tax, and like I said, the incidences that have been happening, the one that happened that made our final decision, people got questions they need to answer. And then, like the safety officer that works over the whole district, after you answer your questions, you can turn in your resignation. And then the superintendent, you got questions to answer. And after that, you can hand in your resignation because you clearly can't run your districts. They're not safe. These kids aren't being educated. And then beyond that, guess what? It's election time here. All right, city council members and candidates, as well as mayor and mayor candidates, y'all got questions to answer now, too.
Yeah, but
I
then
don't care about the potholes. How are you going to keep my kids safe at school when they should just be going there to read and write?
the basic education skills that they need
Yeah,
to
because
survive.
bullying out here has run rampant. And I know this ain't the only school that happens at. And I don't just mean in my district. I just know this has become an issue everywhere. But again, parents have to talk to their kids, be involved. Um, and again, sometimes you got to be their parent, not their best friend. And like I said, when we pulled ours out, one was real disappointed. Oh, my friends, and you paid for the field trip. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I get it. I'm not worried about losing money on the field trip. I can replace 20, $40 all day long. I can't replace you. And I said, if you want to be mad at me, I get it. But remember, I'm your parent, right? I'm not your best friend. So I get right now you're upset, and that's fine. But me and your mother have to do what's right to protect you and provide, the tools and resources we can to help you become the best you can be.
And I 100% agree with that. And that goes with everybody is we got to help protect our kids. Number one, that should be the forefront. And I don't mean just the ones in education systems.
Mm-hmm.
I mean everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have homeless parents out there that have homeless kids just as well.
Mm-hmm.
You have kids that are in the ghettos per se. You know what? They're all kids. This ain't, our problems of down the roads and all that aren't
Mm-hmm.
their damn problems.
Yeah.
We got to start educating them and giving them something instead of having to make them grow up at a young age because they feel they have to provide for a family, which that's not their job.
Right.
Their job is to go to school. That's it. That's their only job. Go to school, be a kid. That's my opinion. Because like I said, we don't have these conversations enough.
Right.
We don't. And I'm sorry, Your Honor, that I just happened to bring it up.
No, it's fine. Like I said, one of the things people, they usually see me on lives, joking, laughing, having a good time, saying all kinds of crazy stuff. But sometimes I get DMs because people see me on all kinds of other lives. Like, what kind of live are you on? Because it's not the goofy, silly hobo. It's conversations like this. I can talk or be in conversations about a wide array of topics, whether it's goofy and silly or serious, right? And and to that effect too, one of the things I like is being on here is the ability to sometimes you need somebody to talk to, right? And getting to know a lot of you guys, me and you've become very close, like we talked about earlier. But a lot of us have become close in general, and it's like I said, if you need somebody to talk to and you got nobody to talk to, you can DM one of us, and most of the time, if we're around, we'll hit you back up, and then do, face to face if we need to or whatever, because
Yeah.
sometimes you need somebody to talk to,
It's important.
Yeah.
And I think, a lot of people need to start understanding that. And I know it's hard sometimes because if you're a single parent, it's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
I totally understand that because they're trying to work because let's be honest, today's age, it takes two incomes to be able to make it unless you're way up there on the pedestal where you only need one. But for the average person,
Which most people, yeah, are not, right? Yeah.
right, you got an average person that you have two people in there, they're both working. So you take that one away. Now, okay, now that one's got to do double shifts to try to make ends meet and raise a family at the same time. And that stuff right there, that's a hell of a stressor. That's a hell of a mental deal right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to say one thing, like your wife, my wife, and all the mothers out there and all the women that go through it is I give a hell of a lot of credit and congratulate all the women for what they do for our children because that's hard. They do something that I can say speak for myself. I would never have the strength to be able to do. Yeah, I can have the strength to do other things, but that's a hell of a lot of strength on what they do. But again, I just wanted to give kudos out to that because I think that stuff is important. And these are some issues that we need to start discussing with everybody. It's not about, yeah, it's like, hey, I can talk about a cigar, but I'm gonna be honest, I can only talk about a cigar for about 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
After that, I'm done talking about it.
Yep.
I'm off it. I'm going to talk about sports because I love freaking sports. I will talk
Anything,
about whatever.
anything else. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just life experience. It's like, hey, let's talk about something else. Don't bore me. I don't need you to keep telling me about the same thing over and over. And that's just not this. I mean, with anything.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the cigars kind of brought us all together, and that's how we met.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the only aspect of my life,
Well, right. I mean, it's allowed us to be able to have these type of conversations and build a trust. It's kind of like if you go to a therapist, you have a couple one-on-ones with them. They get the feel for you. That's like a job, like a probation. You're getting a feel for one another and all that. It's like, okay, can I talk to this person or work, whatever the case may be. So it's a freaking experience. So you got to warm up to them. You got to get to know them before you start opening up. It's not like, hey, I just met you today and I'm going to freaking tell you my whole past. Not going to happen. And just be unsaid, everybody has skeletons in their closets. Everybody's got a past. Everybody's got a past. Just saying.
Now, with that being said, let me go grab my charger real quick. So I don't know if you need to pause this or make yourself a note so you can cut this, but I got to go grab my charger.
Yeah.
Just make yourself a note.
Okay.
I'll be back. Give me one second.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Just taking a short break here. Hopefully everybody's enjoying. Again, everybody, it's having a great conversation with Hobo and all that. Comes in many different shapes and forms here. He could be a captain, different forms.
Never know what you're gonna get.
But with that being said, I do have to ask you a question. It's been on my mind a lot.
Okay,
Okay. Hobo,
Scott.
smoke cigars, right?
Yes,
Smoke a pipe, right?
yes.
Have you ever once smoked your beard?
Have I smoked my beard?
Yeah, because has it ever gotten into it? Have you ever freaking caught it on fire where you're like, oh man?
I'm trying to think. I haven't smoked my beard. I'm trying to think if I burned like part of an eyebrow or part of a mustache, but I really don't think I have.
That's an interesting fact right there.
Because trust me, if I had, I'd tell you, y'all know. Um, but
Well, because if the ash comes down or something like that, and it gets
yeah,
and it starts burning and all that on your beard,
what?
you're like, oh,
Maybe once, like right here, but it's grown back in pretty well now. But
see, now you're gonna be conscious about it.
yeah, I'm trying because I feel like I want to say yes, and I'm trying to remember what it was. But I think it was like right here, and I don't remember if like ash fell because again, right, like sometimes when you get one so good, you're trying to smoke it all the way down, and like yeah, But if anything, maybe it was right here, because like I said, my gut reaction is I feel like I want to say yes, I just can't remember what it was. But it's not like no, I never had the whole beard catch on fire.
No, not like that. I was just meaning just like in general. Hey, did it catch at any point in time? Did you smoke? Because
Yeah,
sometimes you get up, or if it gets curled up,
yeah,
as
yeah.
you're lighting it.
Now I think I've had some ash fall right here, and it singed it up pretty good. But I think that's about it.
Oh man, because it was funny. There was one. I asked my grandfather years ago when he had a pipe, and back then and all that. Some of his friends they had handlebars.
Mm-hmm.
They smoked pipes. That's why I asked you if you smoked it,
Mm-hmm.
because with the handlebars, one time I'm sitting there. I remember it vividly. I'm sitting there on the patio and all that. I was in the swimming pool. He's sitting there smoking a pipe. Not my grandfather, but my grandfather's buddy and all that. And all of a sudden, you hear him screaming and all that. It's like, what? What? What is it? A freaking spider? Freaking snake? Scorpion? What the freaking hell is it? All right. Oh, as it was freaking, and as he turned around, because when he did it, he like really quickly moved his head, so you couldn't see what was going on. Yeah, it was like gone. That whole one side took it off, and he had to shave it. But he wouldn't shave the other side.
He left the other side.
He ended up shaving it because it was just like it took him so long to get that handlebar mustache just right, and when that sucker went, he was so uptight because he started dozing. It was one of
Oh,
those where you started getting a little too relaxed and not thinking. And when he went to go stoke it and all that, well, he took the handle right in there, literally.
well, this didn't involve me burning my, you know, beard or nothing. But back in high school, right, trying to look good for the girls or whatever your preference is, I was like, wow, got a little bit of hair coming in here. So I took my razor, but I caught one part of my eyebrow. I'm like, well, shit, now I got to even them out. So I even out the other side. Well, shit, now I got to even out the other side. Well, shit, now I got to even out the other side. So finally, I get to this point. I'm like, shit, I got to stop. It's like, well, they look pretty even. Nobody's going to notice. I walk out the bathroom in the living room. Immediately, my mom goes, what the fuck happened to your eyebrows? I was like, oh shit, is it that noticeable? I was like, what'd you do?
Oh God, you get me to tear up, man, because that shit right there, like what I say, those are classic memories and all that of different stupid things. Oh, I've done it too. I've
Yeah.
done it too. Mine was more or less something. I was working on something. I was young. I think I was doing because we had dirt bikes when I had them and all that. So I was working on it, And when I went to reach in, I caught my eyebrow.
Mm.
So it made a line right through it. Going in the bathroom, I'm like, okay, how the hell am I gonna fix that? It's like right there. I kept looking at my mom and all that. I'm like, 13 years old, you're looking around. Well, shit, she just they painted, but you can't really see. So, hey, it should be no big deal, right? So I shaved it off.
The whole eyebrow?
The whole fucking eyebrow. Then when it was completely all white, I'm like, well, even as I was shaving, I was just like, oh my God. I didn't think it was going to do that. I thought it was like be a little bit because I thought I had a guard because, again, I was new to a lot of this stuff. I didn't have
Yeah.
hair, but it was like, I thought there was a guard because my dad would have a guard when he would trim his beard and his mustache and all that. Yeah, wrong. No guard. It was bare right to the T.
No.
And then my father had shaved my other eyebrow because I couldn't do it. And I was just like, oh my good God. So my mom, trying to be a smart, she painted my fucking eyebrows. She had put that little, whatever that stuff is called when they pencil it in and all that. I washed that shit off because I was like, I can't do this. I cannot do this. That's just wrong. My dad's like, what?
Prettiest girl at the prom.
Holy shit. But see, I can admit it. You don't know any better. Shit happens.
Makes me think of that Seinfeld episode where Uncle Leo blows his eyebrows off in the oven. And so Elaine Sharpies them in and he just looks angry at everybody.
Very true.
He's just talking to people. I'm like, sir, why are you yelling? He's like, I'm not yelling. I'm like, sir, calm down. It's just because his eyebrows like make him look like he's mad.
We had one instance, I lived out in the country and all that. So everybody, you know what a culvert is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, ours were real deep culverts all the way up and down out in the country. So obviously we couldn't get our riders down in the freaking culverts. You don't try to get I will say this. Please do not attempt to take your rider into a culvert. Bad mistake. But anyway, well, we had to do it. We couldn't use a push mower, nothing like that. So we would just take gasoline and we would freaking burn them. That's the easiest way. But that's how we can always tell when somebody's out there burning the culverts. Your hair's singed, your eyebrows are singed, your mustache is singed. You could smell it. And they're like, oh, you were burning the culverts. Well, how the hell do you know? Because you can't tell because you're into it. So it's already there. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, because you're all singed. You're like, what? Holy crap. Eyelashes are all
curled and gone. Yeah.
Oh man. Those fun facts. Those are literally facts. But it's the laughter like that, the genuine laughter right there that brings you back to a special moment. It's like, okay, so what kind of memories can you make?
Right.
So every choice that we make every day, make them count, make them worth it, because we're not promised tomorrow. We're not. Take care of yourself. Be kind to one another. At Hobo, I was going to ask you, so what is your biggest takeaway from cigar smoking or even just the culture itself being in this industry? What's your biggest takeaway?
Ooh. I mean, that's a broad, vague question. Like, why do I do it at all or what?
What's the takeaway? What do you get? What have you gotten the most out of it?
I mean, like, a lot of us have talked about on here, to me, with cigar smoking, besides just getting to talk to people, because, again, I don't have a lot of friends here I get to physically hang out with. So, and again, I don't have a nice lounge nearby, to really go hang out in. So coming on here with a lot of you guys, it lets me talk to people and, interact with people other than, my wife and kids, which, I love them. But sometimes it's like, okay, I need to talk to somebody else. But then, beyond that, we talk about the meditative aspect of it, right? So like for me, when things are getting kind of crazy, or if I'm on edge, or I feel like my life's getting out of control, you know, same thing kind of with pipes, but I'll use cigars for this example. With a cigar, if I feel like my life's kind of spinning out of control, with a cigar, I get to pick my stick, I get to pick my cut, pick my light, right? I sit down, I can choose my music or whatever. If I'm not at a lounge, I can come on here, I can come, or be by myself with my thoughts, whatever. And then I get to choose how fast or slow I smoke it, right? So I get to control all that stuff when I feel like I have nothing else I can control, right? But I can control this, right? So that's to me one of the biggest things, because to say out of the industry and all this, to me those are kind of the way my mind works. That's kind of various subtopics, but that's kind of what I enjoy about tobacco in general. Not to go down to the it's addicting and all that kind of stuff, but
It's like, what you've gotten the most out of it being
to
in
me, like I said, I got to meet a lot of y'all, right? Learned a lot. And then, like I said, that for me more is that meditative aspect. And then way back earlier in our conversation too, it kind of ties me back to some history with my grandfathers and their grandfathers, and kind of ties us back to the land too, right? So that's kind of what I get out of it.
That's, and mine's the same way. That's what I was kind of, because everybody gets something different out of it. Mine is the people and all that. Yeah, 'cause I could always smoke a cigar. That's inevitable. Okay. But to be able to, like, okay, with your friendship and some of the other guys' friendship and all that, women, that means something to me. It doesn't mean you're just a friend. You're someone who I smoke with, I conversate with. That's important. You matter.
Right.
And sometimes, like a cigar of the day, talking to people in Vietnam and having the reach that we're able to have is impeccable. I mean, would have never even thought it. I would have never met you guys if it wasn't for smoking a cigar or hopping
Yeah.
on here and all that.
Right. And because of this, you talk about cigar of the day. I never would have had some of the most interesting or bizarre questions or conversations, on his lives, because his viewers ask some amazing stuff, which I like, because, like I said, it keeps me thinking, because that's all I did all day. Every appointment we had come in was always a different experiment or appointment, even though the technology I worked on was the same. It was something different. So, like I said, at least lets me keep thinking and stuff like that, since I'm not working now. It doesn't mean I don't do anything, but it just kind of helps in my head keep my mind sharp. Lets me exercise my brain a little bit.
And that's important. Again, it's the mental health part of it. It keeps you going. You can read books. You can do a lot of different things. Very therapeutic. Now, you have a really good friend. We both do. He's not on here, unfortunately, but we will have another part 2 and all that with Hobo and him. But with the MJ, and that you're a part of Hot Garbage, or you guys are the creators of Hot Garbage.
Right. So
how did that even come about?
Yeah. So me and MJ's the CEO. I'm kind of co-CEO. I'm kind of more of a backseat silent partner, but like I said, he's very much the face of it. But first off, it's not a real company, not a real cigar club. You can't subscribe and get cigars monthly. It's all fake. It's a joke. But how it came about is kind of like we're talking. I was on a live one night with him, sitting in the comments, and he had asked me to hop on. And when I first got on here, I was real nervous, because not that I was afraid to talk. I was more afraid that I wouldn't shut up. Because if you let me, I'll talk your head off. But so Adam kind of helped me get over that fear, and I learned kind of the ebb and flow of being on these lives and stuff. But he was on there by himself, and I'm sitting in the comments, and he's like, "Well, hop in if you want." I was like, "All right, well, screw it." So I hopped in because it was late and it was just me and him. So he was sitting out there by his fire pit and stuff. And that night we had what we called the sheepdog experiments, but I'll save that for the second podcast. And then, me and him were talking about kind of how we talk about it's like, you know, we can only talk about cigars for so long, right? We love them, like hearing about new ones, but I can't sit there and talk about cigars for 4 hours in a monotone voice, and then it becomes almost this Charlie Brown thing, like wah 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 wah. I'm just like, oh my, nobody's gonna crack a joke or talk about anything else. Like, good God. And then, like I said, we kind of all make fun of these reviews and stuff now, and I'm guilty of doing the same when I first started because this is what I thought you did with this shit. But it's like I'm getting pepper notes growing on the northern. I was like, you got these classy, nice tasting cigars. I was like, why does nobody make like a shrimp and ramen cigar? And he starts laughing, and next thing you know, we're just coming up with like the nastiest cigars we can come up with, like a toenail Toro and, just all kinds of crazy stuff. So we're laughing. He's like, yeah, we should do a fake company and we'll call it Hot Garbage Cigar Club. And thus it was born,
For not being a real company.
Right. And that's the scariest part is I'm glad and that's the thing I like. It's all fun and it's a big joke. It's not a real company, even though we have a sticker you can buy, but that's because everybody pressured us to do one. But people seem to want to be a part of it, which I like, because again, it's just meant to be fun. It's not a real thing, even though we got 47 fake board members, right? But it's crazy. Like, I remember me and him laughing when he messaged me. He was like, what the hell? We got 100 followers. I was like, why? Well, jump forward to now. Hell, it may even been less than a year, about a year. He's like, hell, we almost got 1,000 followers. I'm like, why? Like, so it's just, it boggles my mind. I'm just glad though that people enjoy it and, get in on coming up with crazy cigars and stuff. And, but MJ is very much the face and stuff. Like I said, he's the CEO. I'm co-CEO.
You get everybody to laugh, man.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you realize it or not, because it's different. It's unique.
But like I said, people like being part of it, which is good. Because like me and you have talked, and me and MJ talk about it all the time. It's like, yeah, these are good and great, and they're meant to be enjoyed. But sometimes, like I said, they almost get taken too seriously and kind of put way up on this pedestal. And it's just like, I can't be serious all the time. Yes, I can have serious conversations and I can talk serious stuff, but I can't do that all the time, let alone about a cigar. I'm just like, ugh. So that's why we do it.
And that stuff is important, and I enjoy that part. It brings me a lot of laughter. That's why your fun facts, different ways you go and all that. So what's your fun fact for the evening, for this Wednesday? Fun fact.
Shit, you got to pick a topic, man.
Oh,
I can't tell the normal one, I tell, but.
Oh, man. See, I can't ask one I normally ask.
Don't pick cigars either.
No. Hot garbage.
The cigar club?
Hot garbage.
Or just hot garbage in general? Let's see if I got one. All right, no, I'm not going to tell that story. I was like, because that one's not funny. I used to work at an animal shelter. See, like I said, I don't always got fun facts on everything. I'm trying to think of where to go with the hot garbage.
You can use the cigar club.
Well, most recent fun fact is, like I said, we got a lot of fake board members. People just kind of draw up the position. Well, we got We got a fake lawyer and a fake magistrate. And recently, a company put out a cigar with a logo that looks real similar to our logo. And so we dialed up our fake lawyer and said, "You might actually have to do some work." And he's like, "What?"
You need to fight it, because I've seen that same. I really thought it was the hot garbage. I was like,
a lot of people did. We had people.
How did they get as hot garbage? I didn't even freaking know it existed.
We didn't even. Yeah, we didn't know it was that. We had a lot of people send us that stuff, and we're just like, whatever, man. Like, we're not a real thing. Because MJ actually reached out to that company, and he was like, "Hey, why are y'all copying our logo?" And they kind of panicked. They're like, "What?" And he sent them a picture of our logo, and he's like, "Honestly, we're not a real company. Like, yeah, this is really our logo for the sticker, but." He's like, we don't care. Like, hope your cigar is good. Like, if you want, send us a 5-pack, whatever. But and so they were cool about it. But I guess that's the most recent fun fact. Other than that, like I said, we always like just creating stuff off the top of our head, like our fun bathroom snack 5-pack. That was a fun one. After DJ Khaled, how he keeps snacks in his bathroom.
Yes, he does.
So look forward to that.
Interesting. All right. Fun fact about beards.
Beards? Make sure you keep them clean and neat, because, again, you don't want leftovers or other stuff to start living in there.
I know you want to go somewhere else, because it's, I was too. See that devilish eye right there? See? We're going to be
asking me what the best beard conditioner is?
What is that?
I've heard it was clam juice.
Hey, it could be.
Clam
Get
juice.
it? Clam juice.
Clam juice.
It works.
Well, good night, everybody.
Well, what the hell? Man, but I love it. And again, thank you so much.
No, man, thanks for having me. Like I said, I know you have a lot of big people, not always cigar, people, which I like, right? Because like we talk about, like, how long are you going to talk about cigars? But like I said, some of the big names you've already had, like I said, thanks for having me. So,
hey, everybody has a place. And again, like I said, everybody has a story. Everybody matters, no matter if it's something big or if it's something small. It all matters. But it comes down to whether you're smoking a cigar, or just having a good time, or just great conversation with somebody. That's important too. So on that note, thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you, Hobo, for being on and being a guest and conversating and all that. Well, and that will be the end of our show for the evening. All right. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen.
See you around.
Until the next time. Fun fact, Hobo will be back with maybe a Speedo or something. Yeah, go out with a bang.
It's very possible.
Hey, you're going to CI, brother.